Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar all about our brand new Barrington Stoke Reader of the Year award. My name is Anna. I'm the Training and Events Manager here at the SLA. So I am joined by a few speakers today. We are firstly going to be joined by Victoria Dilley, who is the CEO at the SLA, and also Jane Walker, who is the Sales and Marketing Director at Barrington Stoke. So Tori and Jane will go over a little bit of background about the award, and Jane will also cover how Barrington Stoke support accessibility and engage reluctant readers as well. We'll also be joined by Emily Hanson, who is the Head of Education at First News, and she'll talk a little bit about the importance of youth voice and just why it's so important to champion those young voices today. And then finally, we'll be joined by Hannah Clover, who is the library lead here at the SLA, and she will go through the practical application for the award. So what that application process does look like, the timelines, the shortlisting process, and also those key criteria that we will be looking for as well. And then right at the end, like I said, there will be time for Q&A. So if you do have any questions, that will be your time to ask them. So as we go throughout the webinar, please do pop your questions in the chat box or the Q&A, and we will pick them up at the end. So without further ado, I will start by playing the video from SLA CEO.
Hello, my name is Victoria Dilley and I'm Chief Executive at the School Library Association. When I was a school librarian, I often came across children who were reluctant to read. It was really hard to find the right story for them. Sometimes they didn't read because they couldn't, they didn't have very much confidence. Sometimes they didn't read because they simply didn't enjoy it and they'd never experienced or made the connection between reading and fun. Sometimes they had a specific learning need that was a big barrier for them. And sometimes it was all of the above. I was always really determined to find them the right book, to find the story that would help them get into reading. And very often the books that I would turn to were published by Barrington Stoke. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with the brilliant titles they publish, the amazing authors that write for them, and the huge amount of work they do to make reading accessible. That's why we are really excited to be partnering with them this year on the Barrington Stoke Reader of the Year award. In the National Year of Reading, this feels especially important. As we look to celebrate reading across our communities, we want to recognise the young people who sometimes go unnoticed, the ones who've really strived and been determined to overcome the barriers to reading that they face. And very often with the help of a supportive and often brilliant school librarian or class teacher, they have indeed succeeded. We want to recognise their achievement. So I would really encourage you to visit our website and find out more about the Reader of the Year award, because I am absolutely certain there will be a pupil in year 7 or 8 in your school who fits this criteria, whose story you would like to share with us and who you would like to nominate for the Barrington Stoke Reader of the Year award. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that. Okay, I will now hand over to Jane. To you, Jane.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. As many of you know, just shy of about 30 years ago, Barrington Stoke was set up with a very special mission. And that mission was to publish quality stories to support those who'd found little joy in reading. They were daunted by it, struggled with it, resistant to it, just indifferent. The publishing industry really didn't appear to care about them at this time, especially the struggling reader, those reading below level due to challenges such as dyslexia and visual stress. So we set about producing short, bite-sized, quality books written by the biggest name writers around that we could find. And we drew from our founders' lifelong experience in SEND teaching, and a range of educational specialists to create books that are designed and produced to help more confidence and to help with being able to read more manageably and therefore ultimately more enjoyably. Also crucially, we reached out to our target audience to learn from them about what helps and hinders their reading process. Initially, we sent manuscripts out pre-publication to so many schools who's selected their struggling readers and who would come back to us with often brutal feedback. The consultation process is now online in our popular Young Editors scheme, and we continue to learn from our readers and to feedback into making our books more readable and more accessible. But I hope what this approach shows is that young people are at the heart of everything that we do. We're always looking for new ways to support and celebrate those who are not your traditional keen readers, the many young people who face real challenges and barriers to reading, and this new award cares about them. So we're really thrilled to be working with the SLA. And for us, they were a natural partner because we recognise the crucial role you wonderful people play in supporting those often hard to reach young people. And we know the dedication, care and skill it takes to seek them out and to nurture them. Aside of this, I just wanted to say, I know we're known for being particular support for those with dyslexia, but we also know that our shorter reads are offering a bolt hole and a safety net for many young people today for a whole host of reasons. So we're really keen to hear more widely about those who have overcome challenges to becoming somebody who enjoys reading, whatever that looks like for them. And I'm also delighted to say that Catherine Johnson is going to be on the judging panel. I'm sure she's no stranger to you as the award-winning author of acclaimed historical non-fiction, such as Race to the Frozen North and most recently Dance of Resistance. Stories which themselves shine a light on the marginalised, the less well-known but hugely influential Black figures in history. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the entries, to working with you all on this really exciting new award for us that's going to be launched, obviously, in the National Year of Reading. Thank you. I think we're just going to pass you over to Emily now.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. So I'm Emily Hanson, I'm the Head of Education here at First News. I'm a previous teacher and a mother of two, luckily keen readers. I'm very lucky they're keen. And we've been going for 20 years now, First News have, and we've worked closely with young people throughout that. They are fundamental. We have our own young journalists, we take them along to round tables, and they make such a difference in everything we do. And that's very important as part of this award, because with votes at 16 coming up, our current 12-year-olds may well be voting. And in order to do that, we need to give them a stake. We need to give them a voice. And youth voice is so vital in everything we do. Because to have a good democracy, we need informed citizens. So that's why I'm so excited to be celebrating our readers and those that have overcome challenges and really give them a shining light, because they are our future. Thank you for having me. I think I'll pass back. Thanks, Hannah.
Nice. All right. So my name's Hannah. Like Anna said, I am the school library lead here at the School Library Association, and I will tell you some of the practical things about how the award is going to work. So I hope you can all see my screen now. It says that I'm sharing it, so you should all be able to see that. So to start with, applications. Applications are currently open on our website. They will close on the 15th of May. So you can find them under the awards section of our website, and you're looking for Barrington Stoke Reader of the Year Award. It's focused on the reading efforts of Year 7 and 8 pupils, or Secondary 1 and Secondary 2 age pupils if you're in Scotland. So mainly 11 to 14-year-olds in that age demographic. The application process, the form itself is quite short, so we have 3 questions. The first is, what barriers or challenges has your pupil overcome in their reading journey? How has their relationship with reading changed or developed since overcoming these barriers? So those barriers could be SEND needs or having English as a second language, but it could also be that they've moved away from reading just like one particular book or genre and started enjoying new kinds of books as well. The next question is to tell us about your pupils' reading resilience. How have they shown effort, determination, or commitment to developing as a reader? So we're looking for people who have really developed their relationship with reading and in the long term, hopefully, as well. And then the third question is, why do you believe that this pupil deserves recognition? We want to hear your celebration of their efforts. What have they done that's made you really proud to celebrate them within the library? So we're not looking for essays. We've kept it deliberately fairly short, and we want to keep it focused on what the child has experienced and what their successes are. Really important, if there's one thing that you take away from the session, we must have parental consent or guardian consent for a submission. We can't consider applications that have been submitted without it, so it is a required field on the form, but please do get that permission before you submit the form. Now, we would love to hear about how a relationship with the school library or librarian has helped a child to develop or improve their relationship with reading, but we also acknowledge that not every school has access to a librarian or a staffed library, and we want applications from as many schools as possible. So if your school doesn't have a school library or you don't have a full-time librarian, it won't be discounted. We'd still like to hear about your children and your wonderful readers as well. So Barrington Stoke, First News and the SLA would like to have the opportunity to celebrate shortlisted winning pupils in publications and newsletters. So whilst we wouldn't discount any submissions where media consent is not attainable, please try to have that conversation when you're submitting the application and getting parental consent at that stage. We appreciate that it's a very broad field. People have different opinions about it, and we're happy to have, conversations or ask questions. But if you can speak to the parent or guardian of the child you're submitting on behalf of, that would be wonderful. Now, judges and criteria. So judging takes place over summer 2026. And we have 6 judges. We have 2 authors in there, so Tom Palmer and Catherine Johnson. We have Julie Broadbent, who was the 2025 Secondary School Librarian of the Year award winner, and Victoria Dilley, who is our CEO. We heard from her earlier. Alyssa Bathgate, who's a publisher at Barrington Stoke, and Emily Hanson, who's also with us today. She's the head of education at First News. So the criteria includes the significance of the barriers that the child has overcome, their effort and determination, and commitment to developing as a reader, the impact that they've had on their school community, and the impact and significance of the change in their relationship to reading. So it's all on the slides, but do consider those things when you're putting your application together. Each application is going to be considered holistically, with care and without hierarchy imposed on the barriers that are overcome. We recognise that what might be a small barrier to some could be a real hurdle to another. Depending on the volume of applications that we receive, we may consider announcing a long list and then a short list. At the moment, we've sort of announced that we'd be doing a short list. So depending on what we get, that might update. It is the first year we've run this award, so it's a very exciting new initiative, but that's the sort of thing that develops as time goes on. The ceremony will be lovely. It is going to be held on the 18th of November at the Story Museum in Oxford. We're estimating that the shortlist will be about 3 children, and 1 parent and 1 representative of the school will be invited per child, as well as the child themselves, of course. We're hoping that we can live stream the event. That is an aim. It isn't confirmed yet. Winners will receive £400 worth of Barrington Stoke books and digital access to First News for their school for a year, and £100 of Barrington Stoke, not Barrington Stoke, book tokens, national book tokens for themselves. The School Library Association is going to be in regular content once the shortlist is announced, so the process of what the ceremony is going to look like will be very hands-on with that process as that goes on. But that is everything I had to say about what I have, the information that we have about the how the award is going to take place. So I think that brings us up to questions, potentially.
Lovely. Thank you, Hannah. Hopefully that is a very straightforward breakdown of the award. As I said, do feel free to put any questions that you have for Hannah and Jane in the Q&A. I do have a few questions here that I have been asked previously. So just while we're waiting for a few more questions to come into the Q&A box, I have a couple to go through here. So could you share, first of all, what makes a really strong nomination stand out to the judging panel?
So I was going to say I'll let Jane, because I'm not on the judging panel, but
well, that's true, and neither am I. But my colleague Elsa is, who's in Bologna this week. I think it will be. I think it is all about the individual and where they were and where they are now, and the journey that they've come on. I think it's going to be very much it's just sort of appreciating. It can be anything. I don't think it needs to be that they're suddenly, running book clubs around all of their school, or, I think we just need to celebrate what is often quite small but really important steps. And I think that's also really good. So don't shy away from celebrating the smaller things, because we know what a challenge it can also be. So I hope that helps a little bit. I think this first year we'll be very open to really understanding your experiences and drawing from that into the pool of discussions. But I think it's very much not about the Matildas in your school. It's very much about those children that have come to their reading in quite maybe in difficult circumstances, maybe just slowly. Whatever that is, I think we're really looking forward to hearing from that. But I think we're open to lots of different ways that that's happened.
Great. Thank you for that. And we do have a question here from Mrs. Lumsden, who said, would it be possible to nominate more than one pupil from each school?
Yes, I believe it is. Is that right, Hannah? I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I didn't think of that question before, but I believe so. Yes, that would be absolutely fine.
Absolutely. Lovely.
Okay. And would you...
I'll try.
Sorry.
No, carry on. In the background, I'm going to think, because I feel like that question did come up, and I've not got it in my notes here, but I will try and have a look for you just to confirm that in this session.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's another question here from Emma Birchall, who I think this is for you, Jane. Could you share some of your personal favourite Barrington Stoke recommendations that would interest reluctant readers in Year 8?
I would think, I think at the moment, it's a very strong area that we've got at the moment. So I would recommend Phil Earle, Northern Soul, if you like funny books. I would recommend the amazing tech thrillers that Melinda Salisbury has written, which actually are appealing to both boys and girls for their gripping sort of page-turning thrillers about how modern day AI and computers are and tech generally is manipulating young people, but how young people fight back. There's an awful lot to think about and discuss in those. I think there's we've got the Reek by Alistair Chisholm, which has done really well and is on the book buzz list this year, and is a dystopian thriller that's really looking at what it might look like in the future and the choices that you might make about living your life, but also about corporate greed. There's a lot of politics tucked in there too, which is really interesting. And then most recently, we've just published a book called Big Words by Luke Palmer. It's very new, it came out last month, but it's really a really moving and interesting book about young men. He's a secondary school teacher, he's an author and a poet, and it's centered around 4 boys and their friendships and what it means to be a young man in secondary school and the choices that you have to make when something goes wrong, and fessing up and doing the right thing and taking responsibility, but also especially in our sort of conversations around toxic masculinity and manospheres and all that. I think it really looks at ways, enables boys to think about being young men in a different way, which is a really powerful read. So there's lots in there. I could go on for ages, but I'm going to stop now.
Thank you, Jane. Those sound really, really good. So just a couple more questions about the application process. Are there any common pitfalls that you would suggest avoiding when completing the application?
My guess would be no, because it is the first year that we run it, and the reason they've kept it deliberately short is to make it as accessible as possible. We're not looking, I think, for really stellar applications that are perfectly written, that are beautiful. Like Jane says, we want to hear about the children and what they've been getting on with. So I think if you keep it focused on them, and I guess maybe a pitfall would be reminding yourself of the context that we don't know for that child. Just essential that we get across why reading was a challenge for them and what they've done to overcome it. If we don't have that picture of where they started from, it's going to be hard for the judges to assess where they got to. That would be my advice.
Yes.
So is there
certainly, sorry, I just reiterate that we were really keen, Barrington Stoke particularly, less effort, more fun, which used to be our strapline long time ago. It's the same in this process, is that we very much we're conscious of your time, and we didn't want it to be a barrier for you to apply just because it was a very onerous process. There's nothing worse, so please just apply and enjoy the fact that the criteria, there aren't too many questions, are there? It's not too onerous a process, and that we were really keen that would not be a barrier for that.
Great. And can you use supporting evidence? So can you use photos or quotes or any other kind of evidence, or is it purely written?
That's a really good question. I think the form is set up only for text. I don't think there's an option to attach photos and videos, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't consider adding that, because I think we could add that fairly easily.
Yeah.
And that would actually be a very lovely thing, again, provided you've got consent from their parents that they're happy with you adding those photos in. Again, if there's another question queued up, I can have a little quick check on our website whilst we look at that.
Yeah, definitely. Jane, another question for you. What impact do you hope this award will have in the long term? Why do you think it's so important?
Well, hopefully it will. Well, it's multi-purposed really, but I think ultimately what we want to do is, as I said, we want to celebrate reading in all its forms, which is not just for the ones that are voracious readers. We want to see, like we celebrate and support the struggling readers, and we see them, for themselves and celebrate them. That award does that too. So I think it would also give them confidence. It starts to see them. Hopefully they will start seeing themselves as readers, which obviously is often a little tipping point into people reading more and enjoying more, because a lot of children don't see themselves as readers until they've read one or two, and then they go, oh, actually I can do this, and that's really important. So being part of an awards submission, being recognized in that way, getting through to submission, to award shortlisting stage, all of those things hopefully are good for confidence. They're good for their peers. They might encourage other people that what they're doing is also valid. There's so many things there that I'm sure you'll all get straight away. It's just what we're trying to do is celebrate the ones that don't always feel celebrated.
Thank you. Hannah, did you manage to find the
So the form isn't set up. There's no option on the form to add photos and videos. We will have a discussion afterwards about if we can add that and whether or not that's something we want to add. I can see the value in it, but like I say, it'd just be essential from our perspective that the parents know that you've added those photos and videos with the application.
Right. We've also just had a comment from Alison Halsey here, who says, not a question, but a thank you to Barrington Stoke for the amazing books that have really made a difference to the boys in our schools. We love Luke Palmer, who was shortlisted for the Carnegie last year.
Yes, that's lovely. Thank you so much. Lovely to hear from you all.
Amazing. Okay, I don't think we've got any more questions in the chat, so maybe just one from me to finish, which is, what would you say to a school that isn't sure whether their pupil's story is strong enough to submit?
I'd say
that one.
I'd say if you've got a pupil, I used to work in a school library. I don't anymore. So when I heard about this award, there were at least 3 students that I could think of that I was like, yeah, I could see that for them. And I think it's very easy for us who either work within books or with education to have either children we already know that we compare automatically in our heads to go, oh, but it wasn't as big as that to us, or to think that like there's so far to go in that journey that maybe it's not been enough yet. I think it probably has. We'd want to hear about children and their experiences and journeys, and I'd much rather someone did submit something, because that for them can be massive. And I think when someone talked about pitfalls and I mentioned context, I also thought you're welcome to speak to their other teachers, their form tutor, whoever, and get other sort of submissions from them. It doesn't even have to be about necessarily just about reading, but has their behavior changed since they started in school, and does that sort of line up with when they started reading it, because it could be part of a wider picture of their whole improving journey that we just want to hear about, because it's a big thing and it means so much to those kids that they get those progress markers, I think.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? I think we have just had another question come in as well from Jay Hill, who says, I would like to nominate a student who is in care. There would be no consent for photography of them. Is that okay?
Yes, yeah. Like I say, no one would be discounted, and we understand that there's lots of different contexts that people are in. It's just we wanted to emphasise that there is, a preference to be able for us to celebrate the young people who get nominated and who do get to the award ceremony, but that doesn't have to involve photos, and there can be scales with that. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. Please submit them.
Perfect. And another question here, is there any publicity material for the award that I can share with my English colleagues to start the process of garnering nominations internally?
Lovely. I think it is a great question. I think we've got some logos then put together that have, SLA and Barrington Stoke together, so we can share that. And I think the photos that I used in the presentation, if you wanted to use those, I can double check, but I think we'd be okay to share those. So yes, we can maybe email those around to people who are registered for this session, and think about, or put a little pack on the website of like a download resources pack for people who are looking to, reach out to their colleagues.
Yes, maybe we ought to, because we've got the press release too,
yes,
that we did when we launched. That might be a shareable document, but might be quite nice. Or we could do a distilled version of that. That would be good to, if you want to spread the word. That might be. Okay, we'll look into that. That's a good question.
It is a good suggestion.
We can send something about that out with the recording as well. That's no problem. Do you have another question? All of the children I can think of in my school are in year 9. Would you consider increasing the age limit in future?
I would say potentially, because it's the first year we've run it. But Jane, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, I think so. Absolutely. We did have lots of back and forth around age ranging and what to do. So this year it's 7 and 8, but absolutely open to letting it evolve and seeing where we go with that. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. I think that was the last question actually. So I'm happy to finish there and end it a little bit early. But thank you so much to our speakers. Thank you, Emily, Jane and Hannah, for taking the time to talk about the award and just why it's so important as well. And if you do have any more questions in the meantime, then you can also contact us at info@sla.org.uk as well. So thank you so much for joining and taking the time. Hopefully you're feeling inspired now to start the process, and good luck.